Hey guys, it's Dallas. It's March 16th. I was outside working for a minute and I just came in and checked my mail real quick. And I actually just saw this. Dark Act defeated in the Senate. Huge consumer victory. Dark Act defeated in U.S. Senate. Makers received tidal wave of calls from angry food consumers who are tired of being lied to about GMO in their food. This is on Natural News just now. I thought this was really important because we actually this is great news. I'm so glad to see this. Because we were actually just talking about this as a family this morning of you got to be kidding me that we're just going to pass these laws that we're not seriously going to know what's in our food. What kind of example is that for our children that we can just walk in somewhere and they can hand us a plate of food and they don't have the right, they don't have to tell us what's in it? Bullshit. So check this out. The Dark Act was defeated in the U.S. Senate today, achieving a massive victory for consumers and also for Environmental Working Group, which helped organize large-scale opposition to the bill. The Dark Act would have outlawed state-level GMO labeling laws nationwide, condemning American food consumers to remaining completely in the dark over the genetically engineered content of their food. Natural News thanks all our readers who took action to help prevent the Dark Act. We are fighting for your right to know what you're eating, and with your help we really can defeat Monsanto and its minions like Ted Cruz, Monsatan's preacher. That's true, man. But tidal wave of calls slammed senators nationwide. I spoke to industry insiders this morning who confirmed that offices of many U.S. senators were hit hard with a tidal wave of calls from concerned Americans. Even many Republican senators are starting to come around on this issue, and GMO labeling continues to gain steam across the country as food consumers increase their demand for honest food labels and overall food transparency. The Environmental Working Group released a statement on the victory, and this is what they said. In a major win for consumers, Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas, Republican of Kansas, failed to earn the votes he needed to stop debate on a bill known to opponents as the Deny Americans the Right to Know Act, or DARK Act. According to EWG, the defeat of the DARK Act offers Congress the opportunity to find a compromise for a national mandatory GMO labeling measure that consumers and industry, and industry can support. Scott Faber, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs, said, "Consumers have made their voices heard to their elected representatives in the Senate, and they said clearly, we want the right to know more about our food. We are pleased that the Senate made the right decision to stop the Dark Act, and we remain hopeful that congressional leaders can craft a national mandatory compromise that works for consumers and the food industry. We applaud Senators Debbie Stabenow, Jeff Merkley, John Tester, Barbara Boxer, and Pat Lee for their efforts to defeat the Dark Act." Scott Faber vindicated after many civil war inside the labeling movement. The defeat of the Dark Act vindicates Scott Faber, who was previously accused by several pro-labeling industry insiders as siphoning money away from state ballot measures. Natural News covered the story and quoted 3 industry sources. However, it is clear from today's victory that Scott Faber is working hard for labeling at the national level, and he deserves tremendous credit for today's victory regardless of the previous disagreements among labeling advocates in the states versus federal debate. It's clear the Environmental Working Group and the Just Label It campaign are both on the right track so far, and the EWG now tells Natural News that they fully support the Merkley bill created by Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon, which creates a national mandatory standard food GMO labeling. As explained by Consumers Union, the policy and advocacy arm of Consumer Reports, today praised the introduction of the Biotechnology Food Labeling Uniformity Act. The legislation, sponsored by Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat Oregon, would create a national standard for GMO labeling and require food manufacturers to label products with GMO ingredients via one of several options on the ingredients list section of the Nutrition Facts Panel. Another option would give FDA the authority to develop a symbol in consultation with food manufacturers, which would disclose the presence of GM ingredients on packaging. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, sorry. Jean Hallieran, Director of Food Policy Initiatives for Consumers Union, said, "This is what real disclosure looks like. This bill finds a way to set a national standard and avoid a patchwork of state labeling laws, while still giving consumers the information they want and deserve about what's in their food. This compromise offers food companies different labeling options and ensures that all consumers, no matter where they are in the country or whether they own a smartphone, have the information they overwhelmingly say they want. We urge senators to support this proposal as they move forward on GMO labeling legislation. Merkley's bill comes the day after the Senate Agricultural Committee voted to move forward an anti-consumer bill that would preempt state GMO labeling laws and direct USDA to develop duplicative standards for voluntary labeling and promote biotechnology. The legislation, oops, sorry, that was our screen door shutting. It's starting to get windy. The legislation, which is supported by biotech giants and some of the country's largest food companies, is the latest attempt to block a Vermont law requiring labeling on the package of genetically engineered food sold in the state before it goes into effect July 1st. Consumers Union is urging consumers to call on their lawmakers to oppose preemption of state GMO labeling laws and to support meaningful, mandatory on-package labeling for GMO foods, including engineered animals like salmon and engineered produce and processed food. So, I think this is great. You know, I'm glad to see people are starting to wake up to this food because this is so serious, you guys. I mean, this is what I was telling you before about how can a human being say they want to pass a law to not know what's in our food? Look at all this crap we have to jump through. This is food that we put inside of our bodies. You know, we're only given this body one time, so we're supposed to be taking care of it, not destroying it. But yet, someone is okay with actually passing a law that says that we don't get to know what's in our food. I mean, do you not see a problem with that? But I am glad that this is actually starting to wake people up, because basically we're being poisoned and people are starting to wake up to this. And I think it's the parents, because it's the food that's going inside of our kids. And I think now we're starting to figure out why we're becoming sick a lot. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you guys. I think this is so awesome that this was defeated in the Senate. But, you know, another thing that I did that I challenge you guys to do sometimes is when I go into town or when I call places sometimes out of the blue in my local community, I call local restaurants and ask if they have GMOs in their food. And you would be so surprised at how these chefs and all these people have no clue what GMOs are. That's just another way of raising awareness, is just, like I said before, ask questions. Always ask. Ask. What? Why? Where? Where does this come from? Why does this work this way? We have to start asking questions. Stop being silent. It doesn't matter how many views you get. Who gives a shit about views? We need to keep talking and keep this moving forward. Don't let these trolls get in the way. Talk to you guys later.